Welcome back to It Just Takes One. This is Kelly Watson, and I am very excited about our episode today. I am excited to share with you this interview I did with Yvette Salva. Yvette is the owner of Yvette Salva Fitness, which is a personal training studio in New Jersey dedicated to empowering women. She is also a certified life coach, an author, and a speaker. I have had the pleasure of knowing Yvette for, 5, 6 years now. And the more time I spend with her and the more I get to know her, the more impressed I am with her. She is one of the most caring people I know. And although she has an absolutely incredible story, I think what you're going to find out is that she has a very caring heart. Her mission is to help women get unstuck through coaching and fitness and to prove that anything is possible. And I think her biggest message is that as long as there is breath, there is hope. And hope is the greatest gift of all. I can't wait for you to hear her story. So I won't go any further. I'll let you discover it for yourself. I'm going to invite you to sit back and listen in as Yvette Salva shares her story. This is It Just Takes One. One person, one experience, one moment to change your life. Hi, Yvette. Welcome to It Just Takes One.
Thank you, Kelly. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to be here.
I'm so excited about this. I am, first of all, excited that you actually just got your book in your hand. You shared with me just before we hit record here that you've got your book in your hand. So let's start actually with that piece, because a lot of our listeners are people who have written books, would like to write books, or thinking about writing other books. And the whole idea of the writing process and what it's like to actually hold in your hand the thing that you've created is pretty special. So tell me what it felt like for you when you opened that envelope and pulled that book out for the first time.
You know, it really just got me so choked up that, I had a vision a long time ago with this exact photograph in my head. And that, my daughter, and a parenting moment of us doing lines of cocaine on the dining room table. And I'm like, roll it up this way, roll up the dollar bill this way. But that I was able to do this with my daughter, this photo, this cover, and to actually like have a dream and have it come into fruition. That to me is just simply amazing. And it's what I thought, like a little pamphlet book that you can read in an hour, not anything that's super intense that's going to take, weeks to read. And this is exactly what I wanted. And I appreciate you so much for helping me through this process, because without you, all my tabs open in my brain would never have accomplished this, for sure.
Well, you're welcome. And you know how much I love it. And I just want to clarify for anybody listening, she was not actually doing cocaine on the table with her daughter. You were putting a picture together and pretending so that you could make the point. So just to clarify, in case anybody was concerned about that for a moment, the book is called Booze, Blow, and Pancakes. We're going to get to the title in a minute. I don't want to give away the whole thing at the beginning, but I want to talk about what it was like in the writing. You had seen this vision and you knew it was, now you've got it and it came to fruition. But you had to go back through some pretty difficult times in your life in order to tell the story. What was that like for you to go back and kind of dredge up some of these memories of these experiences that you had in your life that were not always easy?
It was really a lot of healing, to really go through it and actually be alive. Like the situations I put myself through at the bottom of my addiction, I don't know. There is definitely a God, because I definitely have 9 lives. I put myself in really bad situations because my mind wasn't right. And it was healing, though, to think, somehow, some way, God just said, you know what? I'm not going to let this one die, because I never thought I would live past 30.
Mm. And
Yeah.
when you were writing the book, did you remember that? Did you remember thinking to
Oh my,
yourself, I never thought I would be here to be able to ever write this story?
I remember being on the floor in my bathroom when I was living alone, doing all the lines that there was left, like looking in my apartment for any little baggie, looking on the carpet for little crumbs of Coke, and just being like, God, just take me. And I just remember that. And like I just can't believe that I'm still here, because at that moment, if I had a gun, I would have killed myself to get out of the pain. I was in so much pain. I
Mm.
didn't know how to live with or without it. It's a jumping off point. And that's why always my message is, if there's hope, if there's breath, there's hope. Because like, if there's no breath, there's no hope, right? And suicide would have been my course of action for sure, for sure.
And actually, that's a really good point that we should make sure we make right now, because part of the proceeds of your book are going to help suicide prevention. Do you want to talk about that for a minute, just so we make sure people
Yeah.
know that?
So, I always say, if there's breath, there is hope, because one of my very dear friend's son died by suicide. And, she's been an instrumental person in my life. And I just wanted it in honor of him, so to take out the stigma and the mental, the shame of mental health. It's not even mental illness, it's mental health. I think we are in such a crisis right now. So many young people don't even know how to deal with emotions, And I think an easy way out is drinking or drugging, or, just ending it.
Mhm.
But there's no going back. And I think a lot of people just do things in a lapse, just a, screw it.
Yeah, and then that's it. Yeah. Well, I love that you're not only sharing the message, because it's such a powerful message. I love that you're taking, the proceeds from the book and helping to support anybody who's going through that. We're going to give to any organization, but especially the Todd Durkin Impact Foundation, who deal with mental health, and to help anybody who's in this situation. And if you're listening to this and you have somebody in your life, yourself or somebody, who is struggling with any of the things we're going to talk about today, please make sure to check the notes. Because of that, I'll put your information in the notes below. And if anybody would like to reach out to you, I know you're open to that and welcome that.
Yeah, my door is always open.
Yeah, so good. So let's dive into the story, because your story is almost unbelievable, like a movie that somebody made up. When you read this book, you guys, you're going to see an incredible story, and a story of hope, and a story of resilience. And it starts way back when you were a young girl, back in junior high school. Talk a little bit about what junior high was like for you, and how it kind of started you on the path that led you to here.
Yeah, so when I entering junior high school, I had moved here from Spain, and I was literally, Kelly, in such a culture shock. Everything in Spain is like small meals, small cars, small roads. Everything is, I don't know, it's just so different. So when I moved to America, my first day of school, I wore a boarding school uniform, because I went to a British boarding school in Spain. And like the very first day, I had my shirt with a bumblebee on, and I had like this gray skirt on, and like people were laughing at me. And I was just like, what am I doing in this country? Like, I need to go. I need to get out of here. Like, I hated my name, Yvette. I wanted to be Kelly or Cindy. I hated my black hair. I wanted to be blonde. I hated that I was tall and lanky. I wanted to have boobs and be short and be a cheerleader. And I was none of that. And I hated myself. And that was the beginning of me telling myself, I'm disgusting, I'm fat, I'm ugly. And the kids in school told me that, spick, Oreo, nigger, all the things, because I come from a mixed background, and I just wanted to be anything but me.
And so how did you begin coping with that sort of self-loathing, I suppose, that just not feeling good in your skin?
So I felt like the currency to get in with the pretty, the cool kids, would be to become a cheerleader. So I put all my efforts into becoming a cheerleader. And I put all my efforts into losing weight because I figured if I lost weight and I could become a cheerleader, then I would have all the things, I would be it. So that started my fitness journey, and that started me in running. I started running and literally I was running away from myself, but I became addicted to losing weight. And that's kind of the beginning of my anorexia. But I did finally become a cheerleader. I did finally get into the cool table, but with that came a huge price, and that was my mental health.
Mhm. Yeah, yes. And the story continues. And I actually love the table of contents because the way that you tell the story is with some really powerful chapter titles.
Mhm.
The first one is Secrets Keep You Sick.
Yeah.
Share a little bit about what that phrase means to you.
Well, I had secrets my whole life. So when I was in the fitness world, I threw up from the age of 14 years old to 47. I'm 55 now. That's not that long ago, where I was doing fitness modeling with a six pack, yet I was throwing up at night, sometimes 8 to 10 times a day at my worst, but always never could get 90 days. I could never get 90 days of not throwing up. And every day would be day one, day two, but I could never get long-term sobriety from bulimia. And it made me feel like a phony because people are asking me about my fitness and my nutrition. And here I am lying, like, yeah, do what I look like, but not what I am really. Because if you knew what I was doing, I was eating thousands of calories of pancakes drenched in butter and syrup and then sticking my head in a toilet bowl. Like the absolute shame. Because with anorexia, there's not that shame. It's more of like a symbol of power, like I am powerful. But with bulimia, you're sticking your head in a toilet. There's so much shame to that. And I had that. And then when I got into the stripper world, there was the shame of I could never go on stage without being high. So I was high and drunk every single time I went on stage, and I got to be somebody different. I got to be Gabriella D. So I had different names, different aliases, different, a gym bag and a dance bag. I had all these costumes
Hmm.
of me, and none of them were me.
Hmm. Yeah. It reminds me, I was talking with Derek Blackshear, who's part of Todd's mastermind group the other day, and he made a comment. He said, sometimes I feel like we're all driving around like a car with tinted windows. Like we look
Mm.
great on the outside, but nobody can really see what's happening on the inside.
And that's what I always say, Gucci on the outside, Walmart on the inside, baby, because it always looked good outside. Yeah.
And I think that so many times as we've been working together, and you would say those things and I would think, it's so true. We never know what's going on with somebody. And it's so important to keep that in mind whenever we're interacting with people, because we tend to just take them at what we see and not take the time to really understand what's happening underneath.
Yeah.
So you started on this path with anorexia into bulimia, food addiction, and it became some other things. So you mentioned that you were up on that stage. I want to get to that, but it didn't happen right away. So let's talk a little more sequentially so people can kind of keep track of how your story unfolded. High school, you started drinking. What happened when you started drinking alcohol?
So I drank like I wanted to get outside of myself. So the first time I drank was on my prom weekend, and I don't even remember. It was a complete blackout. I just remember waking up in my prom dress completely filled with vomit. And that was the beginning of my drinking. And I drank like that every time I drank. Like people are like, oh, well, can you just have one? I never ever wanted to just have one. I always wanted to escape. And through high school, it was also a social status to be able to drink. So now I'm drinking. I'm with the cool people, the jocks, the cheerleaders, and I'm at the cool kid table and I'm thin, but I'm doing the drinking and I'm doing the bulimia and the anorexia, and I'm mixed up in all these addictions.
Mhm. And again, because nobody knew, you could hide all of that with this beautiful exterior. It keeps you sick, keeps you sick.
Sick. It's the truth. Secrets keep you sick. And my first rehab was in high school. And it was kind of where I kind of I just remember I was in a locked unit for eating disorders, and then the drug addicts and alcoholics were not in a locked unit. And even back then, I just remember thinking, like, I can't wait to be there, someplace different than I am right now. And turns out 10 years later, I am there. I am with the alcoholics and drug addicts, but I always wanted to be someplace different than where I was, you know?
Mm-hmm. When was the first time that you went into rehab?
I was a sophomore in high school,
Mm-hmm.
and I went for anorexia.
And what was that experience like?
That experience was like, wow, what am I even doing here? Really, it was, I had people that were throwing up in garbage bags, locked unit, locked bathrooms, like a 12-year-old boy eating ice. I was thinking, what am I doing here? But I was not any different. I was just like them. And it was definitely an eye opener, because I really realized how most people in the world don't live consumed with calories and food.
Mm-hmm.
Here I was with 12 people who were just as sick as me. I could not be trusted to have the bathroom unlocked. I could not be trusted to pick out my own food,
Mm-hmm. And that was the first of many. You went to rehab many times, and at some point you were actually out working. You were working. You were selling ads, so you were able to function. You were functioning and living in the world until that didn't happen. But I want to kind of lead up, while things were still going pretty well, you ended up getting the job at the go-go bar. So tell a little bit about that story, because it's a fascinating story, definitely for somebody who's listening. But I think it was, in some ways, it led to what became a new level of your life.
Yeah, I think a lot of us, if we go back in our lives, there's definitely that one fork in the road. And for me, in my life, that fork in the road was just then. So I had graduated college. I was drinking and doing a lot of throwing up, but I was still able to teach fitness classes and graduate, right? So now I'm selling Yellow Pages advertising, and I'm #1 in the state of New Jersey. Like, I am selling, I'm winning trips to Rome, Hawaii. I meet a fellow person who had a business in the Yellow Pages gym. He was a fireman, and, I had a great life. But what happened was I started to drink with these locksmiths and the landscapers and the construction guys, and now I lost my job. And I'll never forget the day that I had a company car at the time, the day they drove me back to my apartment, and now I have no car to go out. Like, this was it. Like, that was a defining moment. So I went to the gym, and this guy, Ivan, said to me, why don't you go to this go-go bar, and you'll just get some immediate cash and figure out what you're going to do, with your life after. And I was like, why not? And I went to this go-go bar in a business suit with little kitten heels, like having no idea what I was entering into. Like, I literally look back like, I am so naive. But I went there, and the lights, the strobe lights, the music, the people, the environment, I was like, this is what I'm going to do for quick cash. And that's what I did. And I stayed there, and I moved up the ranks like we all do, thinking we're just going to do this for a little bit. But the cash is very enticing. The power is enticing, and the environment. And I loved it.
Mm-hmm.
I loved it till I didn't.
Until you didn't. So tell us a little more about what happened during the time that you were working there.
So I guess, I started to drink a lot, and I was getting sloppy. So a bartender had said to me, I think you need a bump. And I was like what? Like a fist bump? I had no idea. And she's like, come to the bathroom. And she introduced me, and I had my first line of cocaine. And Kelly, when I tell you, it was literally like just sparkles in your brain. And I said to myself, I need to marry the cartel leader, like right now. I am never, ever going a day without this. I felt beautiful, powerful, strong, funny, all the things, like, and no hunger. And I could stay up, and I wasn't getting drunk, and I could drink and be with customers. And I made so much money that night. And I said to myself, I got to have more of that. And that led me to, I got to have more of that. Just every single day, ever since that day, I did cocaine. Every single day. I had a guy, he'd put it in my car. I'd wake up in the morning, I'd get my baggie. It was a whole thing. I'd get up, I'd throw up, I'd eat all the pancakes, right? Then I would watch Jerry Springer and have a big glass of wine. I'd put out the lines of cocaine. I'd put on my eyelashes, Gabriella D, put my dance bag together, and I'd roll the suitcase and go to the next go-go bar. And I did that for 5 years until there was no more home, no more car, repossessed car, homeless, living out of my car and still doing it.
What's it like to be here now? Does it feel like that's like another person? You know, sometimes when you try and remember what you did when you were young and you think, did I really do that? Was that really me? Because you're so removed from it at this point, that particular moment, homeless, living in your car. Does it feel like I remember it like it was yesterday, or does it feel like maybe that was another person?
I get very emotional thinking about it because it feels like it was yesterday.
Mhm,
It was living in your car is horrible.
mhm,
It's cold.
mhm,
And I'm really grateful for that because for me, that was my rock bottom to say, there's got to be a different way, you know?
mhm. You
Yeah,
actually say that in the book. There's a spot where you say, in some ways, you're glad that it was the cocaine because it brought you to your knees so fast compared to alcohol, which you probably could have functioned on for a lot longer.
absolutely. I mean, one time I put my fingers through my nose and I could touch. So I had literally burned the hole in my nose and I knew that you could actually have your nose collapse from cocaine. And I said, that was it. Once I touched my fingers inside my nose, I never touched the drug again. But what happened was my drinking escalated huge now
Mm,
because now I didn't have, like, that was over. My vanity would not allow me to ever do another line. I just knew Michael Jack, like I knew it was collapsing and that I would never allow it. And to this day, I still can, you know, it's still collapsed. There's nothing to fix it. But I stopped at a pivotal moment.
mhm, mhm. No one can ever say that vanity can't save you because it did, right?
Oh, it saved me. I was like, no, my face, no, that we're not going there. Yeah. Yeah.
So that stopped. You ended
Yeah.
up getting back to having a home, an apartment.
Yeah.
Along in there somewhere, there were several people that really impacted your life, and I'd love to talk about each of them. There were more, but these are the 3 that I think kind of stood out in the book. One is Barbara.
Yeah. So Barbara, like, I don't know if you are kind of like a Barbara Kelly. Barbara has like a short bob. She's got her lipstick on. She's always on time. She's prepared. She's type A. Like you are a Barbara. And this woman just had a love for me. And I was kind of in the go-go world and I was kind of in the fitness world. And I went to train her on a Monday morning at 6 a.m. Now I'm coming from Webster Hall, completely shot out. And I never even had slept. So here I come in with my gym bag clanking with vodka bottles in it. And I'm like, sorry, I'm late, Barbara. And she's looking at her clock like, yeah, what's up? And I'm like, okay, let's start with lower body warm up. And she grabs my arm and she says, Yvette, I think you have a drinking problem and I want you to come to a meeting with me. And she took me to her home and she explained to me that at one point she had had a drinking problem and that she had had years of sobriety. And if I would go to an AA meeting with her, and she changed my life because she introduced me, even though I had been to probably 5 or 6 rehabs at that point, I had never admitted to myself that I truly was an alcoholic till I went to a meeting with her.
Mm. So she almost opened that door for you to see something different.
Yeah, I really believe that God works through people. And then once you see it, you can't unsee it. I didn't get sober after that meeting,
Mhm,
but it was something that, like the gut whisper, the awareness, it
mm,
had gotten into my heart. And now it was a roar. Like, you know, there's something really wrong with the way you're living, and it's not up for debate. It's not wishy-washy.
mm, mm. That's really powerful, and it leads me to the second person who I know it has been a really big person in your life, and that's Patty.
Oh, Patty. Yeah. So at this point, I was selling. Now I had done with the yellow pages. I was kind of in the go-go world, in the fitness world, and I went back to advertising. So now I'm selling. Home News Tribune is like a newspaper around here, and I was selling ads. And so I went into a bagel store And I walked in, I said, can I speak to the owner? They're like, he's not here. And I stole a muffin. I didn't even have enough money to eat, Kelly. So I stole a muffin and I'm like, fuck it. I'm screw it. I'm going to put an ad in for this guy. Like, I need to make commission. So he calls up the office and he's like, did you put an ad for my bagel store? I'm like, I did. It's going to do so good for you. It's going to bring so much awareness. He's like, absolutely not. But I heard you're kind of cute. So let me take you out to dinner. So I went out to dinner with this man, and then this man ended up being my husband. So I actually stole from my own bagel store. But this man believed in me. And this woman that I worked for said to me, you either go to employee assistance program or you're fired. And so now this was the last stop. Like, there was no more rehabs my dad was paying for. I had no more family. All I had at this point was this job giving me this offer. And this man who is going to stand by my side, who said, I think you should do it. No matter what, I'm by your side. And I never had that in my life.
Which brings us to the third person, which you've just brought up, which is Dave. You actually have a chapter in here, Life's a Bitch, and then you meet a man named Dave.
Yeah. So that was when I met Dave. And Patty, how Patty came into the story was when I started that journey in outpatient from Home News Tribune. I walked into my first meeting and I raised my hand and I said, I'm an alcoholic, I'm new and I need help. And Patty became my sponsor and she's like, I'll help you. And she was instrumental. She is instrumental. She is still to this day my sponsor, but she was instrumental as well as Dave. And Dave, I met through the Home News Tribune, and he said, no matter what it takes. And even when I was pregnant with our daughter, which we hadn't planned, I was like, I can't have this baby. I've done so many drugs. I've been throwing up my whole life. I'm still throwing up. And he said, you're going back to rehab. And I went to rehab at 34 years old for bulimia, looking at myself again in the mirror at all these 18-year-old girls. Like, do you want to be in this position when you're my age? Because nothing changed for me. Nothing changed. Insanity, doing the same thing over and over, expecting a different result. I'm 34 and I'm still throwing up. But in order to save our baby, Dave was like, you're going into rehab. So that was my final rehab.
Yeah. So many times, I think you're right. God puts people in our path. There's a reason for things. And as I was doing this book with you, and those three people, I just felt were such anchors at just the right moments in your life when you just needed just to see something different, to get support, and then to be loved, which is really beautiful. So you have the baby. Let's talk a little bit about Mary Rose, because she is now a woman, a young woman, but tell us a little bit about Mary Rose and about your son as well. You've got 2 kids now.
Yeah. So Mary Rose, there's something pivotal about the story with Mary Rose. So I get out of the rehab, I have my daughter, and now I'm sober 3 years, right? And I go to a graduation party, and go to a liquor store. This is the first time I ever walked into a liquor store. And I said, we're going to bring a bottle of wine to this party. Okay. So this is just for anyone struggling with alcohol, how cunning, baffling, and powerful it is. I'm 3 years sober. I'm doing all the things. I go to this graduation party. I'm 7 months pregnant. I'm with my mother-in-law, Mary. Oh my God, Mary, I love you. Now I see the Solo cups and I'm like, you know what? No one's going to know if I put wine instead of Kool-Aid. And I just did it. I don't know what I was like. I was 7 months pregnant with a baby and her name was supposed to be Emily. And I'm like, Mary, I love you so, I'm so out of my mind. I'm like, I love you so much. My daughter, we're going to call her Mary Rose. Like, that just was off the cuff. She was supposed to be Emily. But that day I drank. And this is the thing about secrets keep you sick. I drank one day. I told my sponsor the next day, I said, you know what? I drank last night. She goes, well, you have to go back to a meeting, raise your hand and start all over for one day, start all over. And you have to tell Dave. And I had so much shame, but if I had not told Dave the truth, I probably would have been sneaking, drinking, and never had any time of sobriety. So it's restart, refocus, no matter what the relapse, but it's all about willingness to be honest.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And
So
that's
I have a daughter and she's 20 years old now. She's amazing. And I also have a son who's 10 years old now, and he's amazing.
and because you are not keeping secrets, they know your whole story as well. I have so much respect for you. I'm sure I've said this, but if I haven't, you can hear it now. I have so much admiration for you on so many levels, but that's one of them. The fact that you have such an open relationship with your children. I mean, I'm not sure your 10-year-old knows the whole story yet, but he knows you. He knows you. He knows what you deal with. He knows where you are in your life. He knows your AA meetings. Like, you're very open with them. And how do they handle that?
So my daughter's never had a drink, and she's in college, and people ask her, why don't you drink? And she, for shock value, she'll be like, both my parents don't drink, like she just knows. I've always told her, if you like something and you have that addict personality, you don't want to try. You don't want to manage something that you love that can hurt you. And my son, he's been to AA meetings. He's always like, is it good to be an alcoholic? Like, he doesn't even understand, because at night we light the candle for the still sick and suffering alcoholic. Like, he still sees that I do that. He doesn't even know that it's not good to be an alcoholic. He just knows that I'm an alcoholic, and I share so that other people that are suffering in silence can know that it's okay.
Mm.
It's actually something very courageous to say out loud, I was really screwed up. I recovered and I'm here to help you. That's the message.
Mm. Powerful message. Not an easy message, but a powerful message. And so you are in AA, you go to AA, it's something, you are very consistent with that. And I'm thinking, if there are people out there that are listening that are not, maybe they haven't gotten to the point where they are ready to go to AA or are quite ready to step up, or maybe in some cases AA isn't the solution for them. What would you say to somebody who is struggling and is looking for support or help? What are some of the thoughts you would have for them?
Well, I think that everyone has their own journey. Like for me, and I think this is the stage for many people. Like for me, it was more like, let me drink O'Doul's and still hang out at the bar. Let me drink a little less, be a designated driver, kind of like a little bit of reducing my alcohol intake. And then I would go through periods of abstinence, like dry January, sober October. You hear all these things because maybe something's messed up with your drinking, but you're like, you know what? I'm just going to take a break for 30 days. And then a lot of people are good with that. But then some people are like, you know what? 30 days was so great. Let me just keep going. And then life gets lifey and you're hit with things. And now it's like, okay, that's recovery, because now you're facing life without that buffer, right? So it's very different to say, no matter what, I'm not going to pick up, but that's not for everybody. So it could be like just a period of abstinence. It could be less. It could be recovery, but there's so many avenues. There are so many avenues, and I'm willing to help anyone who's just saying, I just want to drink less. AA happens to me. I cannot moderate my drinking. I cannot have one. I cannot have one Oreo. I don't moderate anything that I know is a trigger. I'm not going to have half a line. I'm not going to have half a pancake, and I'm not going to have a glass of wine. It's not. So I just eliminate things that don't work for me, but that's not for everybody, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's really important, because I do think there's different personalities come to it with different and different support systems and different, all of that. So it's good to know that there are ways that you can change that match what you need, and that there are resources and help and support out there for wherever you are in your journey.
Absolutely. And I know people that are sober and smoke pot, and that works for them. They don't have a problem with pot. That's okay.
Mhm.
I know people that have a heroin problem and have a drink.
Mhm.
Right? So I think everybody has to, I just believe for me, AA is what worked, because there's three things. One, accountability of a sponsor,
Mhm.
like a best friend you can tell anything to.
Mhm.
Two, I think the faith is something I need. It's very God oriented, and that worked for me. And three, it gave me a community, because I think it can be really lonely to get sober and just be like, still try and hang out with people that drink. I mean, that's how our society is set up. And it could be pretty lonely to just keep going around alcohol and being the one that doesn't drink. It's not that fun. But now I have friends where we go to listen to bands together, but I am with a group of people that they all don't drink. And that to me is what I needed.
Yeah, that's great. So obviously AA became a part of your life, and that was part of what was bringing you back to sobriety. But there was also, throughout this entire story, you've mentioned it several times, and I want to come and bring it out now. There was another thing that in many ways became a way for you to save your life, and that was your fitness. That was the connection that you had to being fit and healthy. Let's talk a little bit about that journey, because you mentioned already that you were running these fitness classes, with the bag full of vodka bottles, running in late. You talked about that, but it still stayed a continuous thread through your life. So talk a little bit about fitness.
So my first fitness class was at 16 years old. Madonna, 80s greatest hits, Holiday. Yeah, I had the grapevine with the clap, diagonal, the knee, the whole nine. I loved it, and I loved fitness and music. But like I said, I was doing it more for the high, and I was doing it to burn calories. Like I would teach 3 fitness classes in a row and then go smoke cigarettes in my car and drink. I even did lines it's crazy. My life was crazy. I would do lines and go teach a class. And like, your energy is amazing. Of course it's amazing. But when I decided to get sober, it became now about like my emotional pain that I was holding. I had to release it some way. And for me, it was weight training. So it wasn't like burning calories on the Stairmaster for hours or teaching group fitness. It was about like lifting heavy weights. And for me, AA and the gym showed me how to show up. It showed me how you can keep going. Like you can do step 1, step 2, you can do 5 pounds, 10 pounds. And it showed me that anyone can go to the next level. Like you could just be sober one day and you can help somebody who doesn't even have a day. You can go to the gym and start with 3 pounds and a year later you're doing 30s. It can happen. There's always another level. So those 2 formats for me changed my life. And fitness to this day, it's not a vanity thing for me. It's a mental thing. Like people take Prozac, I have to work out every day or I'm not right. I'm just not right in my head.
The mind-body connection is so true. So tell who's listening, people that are fascinated by this story, which believe me, there's so many pieces that we're leaving for you to read. So if you're listening, get the book. But tell us about your life now. Tell us about what your daily routine is and how you live at this point of your life.
Okay. So when I was telling you that I would get home from the go-go bar at 4 a.m., right? And I would pass out on alcohol and then start the rigmarole the next day. Now I get up at 4 a.m. This is when people say, I've always been this way. This is why I say, no, you can change, because I always was that way. Now I get up at 4 a.m. and I have a personal time every morning. The night before I have my water bottle, my gallon of water set up. In the morning, I read my devotional and then I drink my water and then I go work out. And every morning that is part of who I am to start my day. Because if I start my day on reactive mode and I don't have that time before everyone is up and I'm doing all the responsibilities, I don't have my mind right. So, and another thing is when you are in addiction, you live crazy. Like my car was always a mess. Everything was a mess and could not show up on time for anything. So now I really make it a point to not live like that. Like I start to see my room is getting messier. I'm not making my bed. It's a relapse happening before it's happening because I'm starting not to care. The smallest things, like I'm not really dressing up or putting makeup, or like I'm going out in the world and I don't care. I'm not doing my bed. These are little things maybe someone who's listening might hear and say, this is kind of where I'm from. And then you feel not seen, and then you feel not heard, and then you isolate in your home, and now you're drinking at night to relieve all those emotions. It's so easy. It's so easy for moms who have give, 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 give. And at the end of the day, they just want some relief. So they turn to food or wine. Yeah.
That's so true. We see that so often. And so after you get your workout in, you actually do have a fitness gym. So you see clients.
Yeah. So after that, I get my son ready for school, and then I go see clients, and I work till 12, and then I go to an AA meeting, and then I do life coaching online, and then I pick up my son, and then it's my son time.
Mm,
So, yeah.
beautiful. And I'm so glad you just brought up the life coaching. We're going to get to that. But I think it's great to see how fitness has been such a steady presence in your life, and now how you use that to help other clients get their fitness and get their bodies healthy. Are you working with mostly women?
I only work with women. And for me, it's because I felt like, I always felt like a background girl, like in group fitness, you always know the ones in the front. I always felt my whole life like a background girl. And I created a studio where every woman walking in is important. They're all front row girls. I don't care if you're 300 pounds. I don't care if you're a bikini competitor. We are all the same here. That we are all the same. And that's what I want to show someone. You could be 75 years old and tell me, I want to get fit, and we're going to do it. I want that for any woman, especially women over 40, because I feel like they feel they are not seen. They're starting to feel menopause. It's all about, I'm Joey's mom. I'm this one's daughter, like they're aging parents and their kids. And that's their identity, you know? And they don't even look in the mirror. They're like, yeah, I was hot in high school, but that's over. Menopause is here. No, it's not over. It's not over.
Again, there's so many things that I love about you, but one of the things I really love is how there is no judgment with you. Like, you are so happy to just help and to meet people where they are and to accept them how they are and help them get to wherever they're going, whatever that is for them. Maybe help them see something they've forgotten about themselves. You have an incredible ability to connect with people that way, to see in them the best in them. And I've been on the receiving end of that, so I can say that from experience, how good that feels to be seen and to have that just very open, accepting interaction with you. It really is a beautiful quality, and I love being on the end of it. So thank you for that, but also a huge admiration for you as you work with other women.
I will say this for a lot of women who are starting in personal training, like people are like, how do you keep my livelihood of my clients is 15 to 20 years, still those same people. And I'm not about rebuilding, regenerating. I'm about keeping retention. And it's about a relationship. People don't buy a program, they buy you. And when you're genuine and you're open and honest with someone, and how was the wedding? Send me a picture. Oh my God, you look beautiful. When you can connect with someone like that, that means more than any keychain or any buy one session, get two free. It's not about that. It's about letting someone know they're important. And even some of the women that just come into my studio and they're doing a band and they cry and they're just, for them to walk in and say, I need help is huge. Even if we're just talking for the first couple of sessions.
So great. Which brings us to life coaching, because not only do you do that as a fitness personal trainer, but you also do that as a life coach. And I want to talk about the power of life coaching as you experienced it. You want to tell the story about how you kind of got into the whole realm of life coaching?
So it was during COVID, and I was losing my mind. And, I had a whisper for a long time that my marriage was, I was just kind of alone. I always said if I wrote a book, it would be Alone and Married, because I think a lot of women can identify, like he'd be in one room and I'd be in another room, and we never spent valuable time together. It was more like our kids, that's important, family, and of finances, but it wasn't about us for a long time. And I just was thinking, like, how am I don't know I just need something. So life coaching spoke to me. I did a program for a year. And through that year, I realized that I wanted to be free to feel love. Like I just knew that I loved my husband, but I wasn't in love like that. Like we had lost that. And so I tried and it didn't work, but I was my first student to say, something's not right here and it's okay to pivot the ship, because I always was like, when Mary Rose goes to college, whenever, it's okay, but I wasn't happy. I wasn't happy. I had not had intimacy or connection or like I had not felt love in so long. I just said, there's got to be something else. And I was my first client, and that gave me the strength actually to start the process of divorce. And I am divorced now, and it doesn't have to be angry and mean. It's just complete. That version of our relationship is complete. And I still have this great relationship with him and our children. But I think it's okay to realize something's not working and to pivot. And that's what life coaching taught me.
Yeah, really, really powerful. So a lot of times people will ask me, I hear you're a life coach. What does that actually mean? What is life coaching? How would you describe it? If someone out there is going, I hear that term a lot. I'm not really even sure what it is. Is it about relationships? What is it? How do you describe life coaching?
I really feel like it's about anything, because my whole purpose of getting into life coaching was to start a business to help people. But what I realized in myself was that I was stuck. So I feel like if you're stuck, life coaching is for you, because it's like our mentor Todd says, you're on the trapeze, you're holding on really hard. You want to get to the other rung, but you're so safe over here. You don't want to let go, but over here, if you take a chance, it might be amazing. So you're stuck. And I was stuck for a long time. So I feel like life coaching is about getting unstuck. Like there's women I know that only know being a house mom, being a mom, driving their kids. Then now they're empty nesters and they're like, what am I going to be when I grow up? I don't talk to my husband. He's in another room. I have no love. I have no friends. I don't even have any skills. Let's go. Let's go. What do you want to do? What lights you up? Oh, you like doing bedazzle work? You want to start a page on Etsy? Like a lot of people, I think, I know for myself, when I'm stuck, I didn't even know that there was anything else, that there was even an option of something else. Like I never even considered divorcing. Like there's no option. Like I grew up like this is through, no matter what, you stick together. But once you've tried and tried and tried, like that's insanity, right? Doing the same thing over and over again. Maybe it's time to try something else, whether it's in your relationships, whether it's in a job, whether it's in your drinking, your physical, whatever.
Yeah, so good. Back to that message of hope. There's hope. There's hope. As long as there's breath, there's hope.
Yeah.
Really, really good. So what's next for you? Your training, your life coaching. What else is on your horizon?
What else is on my horizon? I want to speak. I have a keynote, which is called From Hell to Happiness, 3 Steps to Change Your Life. And it's a little bit about my journey, but the steps are awareness, acceptance, and action. And those are the 3 steps I use a lot in my life coaching. So I want to do a lot of speaking. I want to make a lot of proceeds to help the Suicide Foundation, the TD Impact Foundation, in honor of Sean Rocco Vogel. And I just want to keep, being the light out there. I am so happy in my life today. Like there is nothing that I'm in need for. I have beautiful friendships. I'm in love. I feel good about myself. So what's next for me is like just taking that in, and serving.
I love that. Just to let listeners know, you actually won an award for your speaking just last weekend. We were together in LA and she won the presentation award. I have been able to hear that speech, that keynote speech, and it's a wonderful message, a powerful message. So if anybody out there is looking for anybody to do presentations, definitely connect with Yvette. I'll leave the information in the show notes so that you can get in touch with her. So that brings us to the end of the book. And if you would let me, I would like to read just a little bit at the very end of your book, because I think it talks and it speaks very strongly to this whole message and the service and the help that you want to provide. So it says, so if you're struggling with addiction, with grief, with anything, you can't do it alone. You need to get vulnerable and allow other people in to help you. My two biggest takeaways from everything I've experienced in my life are, number one, we are not pre-programmed in any certain way, which means that yes, you can change. And number two, your thoughts create your feelings and your feelings create your actions. That one sentence changed my life because it's not about anything other than your thinking. Your thinking is what's going to make you choose to pick up a drink or go to a meeting. It's all about the thoughts in your head. And if you can start noticing what they are, then you can start changing them. If you're feeling hopeless, I want you to know that if you want to change, you can. If you want to make your life better, you can. If you are ready to take a step toward a new life, you can. I am living proof that it's possible.
I can't believe I am living proof that it's possible. Yeah, I just know that there's a lot of pain out there in the world, and anyone could reach out to me anytime. I've been where you're at. And, it's all about your thinking. Yeah.
So powerful. So powerful. So Yvette, one of the things I like to ask, because the name of this podcast is It Just Takes One, because I think it takes one book, one idea, something to change the trajectory of life. A fork in the road moment is because of one decision. So I'm just curious from your perspective, all the things that you've been through, all the things that you've lived in your life, what would you say it just takes one means to you?
That's a great question. I think it just takes one decision. Just takes one decision, and then keep redeciding on that same decision. Don't go back. Redecide every day on that same decision, one day at a time. So one decision and one day at a time. Because for me, I couldn't do 20 minutes without drinking. So just keeping it in the day was all I could consume. 20 years of sobriety, I don't even relate, but I can relate to just staying in the day for 24 hours. You can drink tomorrow, but one decision, one day, today. And I think it can be either one day or day one. Day one starts the process.
I love that. Love that. Yvette, if somebody is wanting to reach out to you or they want to find you, where can they find you?
My Instagram handle is at Yvette Salva Fitness, and my website is Yvette Salva Fitness, and that's for personal training and for life coaching. You'll find both pages on there.
Fantastic. And like I said, I'll make sure that all of that is in the show notes below. I appreciate you so much. Thank you. Thank you for letting me be on this journey with you with writing and getting this book out to the world. But thank you for just being you.
And thank you. And I just really want to say, Kelly has been instrumental. She has been my life coach 5 years ago, and she helped me write this book. And if anyone has an idea, a random idea, I thought one day, oh, I'd love to write a book. Kelly really helped me write a book by audio. This woman is amazing. And I thank you so much for allowing me to have this come to completion. It would not be without you, Kelly.
Thank you so much. Absolutely my pleasure. And I'm so excited. I really believe we've talked about this. I really believe that we put these books out and they do the work that they're meant to do. And this one has a really powerful message and it has some work to do. And I have no doubt it will find its way to the people who need to read it and need to hear it. And I can't wait for that.
Thank you, Kelly. I appreciate the opportunity today.
We'll talk with you soon.
Bye.
Mwah, mwah.
Bye.
This is It Just Takes One. One person, one experience, one idea, one moment to change your life.